So I'm just investigating this revision 1B A1200 board, and I noticed that we've got an extra capacitor C460. Now in most revisions of the A1200 motherboard that's not actually fitted, so I thought, well, I'll leave it out and see what happens. And when I left it out and I tested it, if I used the pixel checkerboard tests, originally I got a black and white picture. And I could tell it was black and white because the mouse pointer lost its red colour. So I experimented because I thought, well, what did they change on the later revisions to make it not need that electrolytic capacitor? The first thing I thought was, from looking at amigapcb.org, was that the value of C461 is wrong. And it's specified as 220 nanofarads when the schematic says 1000 picofarads, which is 1 nanofarad. So I changed it thinking that 1000 picofarad was what was installed and wasn't enough. And that actually didn't change anything. And I found out the capacitor that was fitted was actually 220 nanofarads. So I thought, well, I'll try a smaller value, because I thought maybe the problem is there's too much capacitance there. And I fitted 3.3 nanofarads, and that had the same effect. There was just weird alternating patterns instead. So now I've put the 10 microfarad cap on with the 3.3 nanofarad, and this is what happens. It's really weird. You can see that the mouse pointer, if I move it down there, the mouse pointer is red, but if I move it up the screen, it turns green. How bizarre. I wonder why that is. And it's the same on the alternating pattern, you see, is green. Move it, and suddenly it turns red. Bizarre. The Sony datasheet actually doesn't specify any decoupling for the resistor, IREF resistor used. So I wonder what Commodore did in the end, whether they found that 1 nanofarad was okay on its own, and maybe that's it. Even 3.3 nanofarads alone is too much. But anyway, I'm going to put it back to 220 nanofarads on the bottom and 10 microfarads on the top. The only thing I can think is that with certain values of capacitance, the current source that generates IREF must oscillate, and so swamping it out with 10 microfarads sort of stops the oscillation, but with low values of with sort of nanofarad ranges of capacitance, it oscillates. And maybe they found that with 1000 picofarads it didn't oscillate. So, but the Sony datasheet actually recommends no decoupling capacitor, and I have tried that and it does work. So interesting.